worked.
Yeah, I did that.
Okay, so what do you think the difference, and we can digress, and then we'll go back to the famous Phil Esposito story. What do you believe the difference is when you played hockey? Did you play for necessity or did you play for the love of the game?
Well, I remember one time my dad, that was the second year I was in Chicago, and he got to meet Tommy Ivan, who was the general manager. And my dad looked at Tommy Ivan, they met, and my dad said, my son loves to play, huh? He loves to play. In fact, he'll play for nothing. In fact, he is playing for nothing. So why the hell you pay him?
So you played for the love of the game, and then you went back to the Sioux, took care of your family, and had a real job.
Well, I worked in the steel mill, but I think I made one really drastic mistake as a player playing in the NHL. I should have gone to the WHA in 1975 with Jim Pattison out in Vancouver. He offered me $1 million
and Bobby Hall,
$500,000 a year for 10 years, 5 as a player, 5 as in a management thing, and I turned it down.
Why?
Because I love Boston and I didn't want to leave Boston.
But Boston broke your heart. You were wearing, according to Don Cherry, a silk bathrobe when him and Bobby Orr came to tell you got traded, and you said, "Do not tell me I got traded to the Rangers, or I'll jump out that window." And Don Cherry said, "Bobby Orr, stay away from that window."
In fact, Don came in with the ugliest pajamas I ever saw, and he goes with his suit sometimes. But that's the only thing I regret, And I got traded because Harry Sinden found out that Eagleson had made a deal with the Blackhawks to send Bobby to the Blackhawks. And Harry always wanted to build his teams with the best defenseman available, and Bobby was the best, no doubt about it. And second best in his mind was Brad Park. To get Brad Park, they had to get rid of me, and that's really what happened, and that's what I found out. And of course, and unbeknownst to Bobby, the Bruins had offered him 10% of the goddamn Bruins, and Eagleson didn't tell him.
So let me ask you, I don't want to dwell, but that's an important, it's a great topic. Was Brad Park healthy when he came to Boston versus Bobby Orr, whose knees had been butchered by morons who didn't know what the fuck they were doing with his knees?
True. Was he what, puppy?
From what I read, Bobby Orr's knees were butchered.
Oh, yeah, no doubt about it.
Were fucking butchered by morons who didn't know what. Like now, when something's wrong with your knee, they make a little tiny incision. Guys, see if you can find the picture of me and Phil Esposito and Tony Esposito singing in Sault Ste. Marie beside a piano. Great memory. I love Phil. It was Brad Park healthy versus Bobby Orr. His knees were done, because some people were saying when he went to play with Team Canada, he was like in pain, beyond pain in the dressing room, but he wanted to play. That's what I read, but you were there. You're the guy who can give me the validation. Is there any truth to what I read versus you experiencing the reality?
Parky's knees were not good, there's no doubt about it, but I don't think he was in excruciating pain.
Like Bobby Orr?
Well, Bobby couldn't play. I mean, his knees were so bad. I mean, he just couldn't. In fact, I turned Eagleson down twice to play in this team. Both my brother and I did, and then Bobby called and asked, he said, "Phil, please, could you play?" He says, "I can't play, my knee is killing me." And I said, "Robert, you asking? I'll do it." And that's a fact, and or else I would have never done it.
So you did it,
Phil, right? Right. Yeah.
So you did it because Bobby Orr asked you?
Absolutely.
So can I ask you, as a friend, because I consider you my friend, can I say you're my friend?
Sure. Absolutely, Frank.
On Tuesday again.
No, but I've known him all my life. I love Phil. I've had some great moments with Phil. And we have some mutual friends in Tampa called the Penguins, and we'll get to that at another time. But
yeah.
Why didn't you want to play? Why was Bobby Orr the catalyst that changed your mind to play in '72? I'm just curious, as a Canadian.
First off, Bobby was my teammate. He was my friend, and I respected the hell out of him. And I didn't want to play because I didn't want to give up my hockey school, and who the hell wanted to go to training camp on August 14th? My daughter's birthday, actually, and I had to do that. And Tony and I gave back the money for our hockey school the last 2 weeks of it. We had to give all the money.
So it was revenue. Were you getting paid to play for Team Canada that Al Eagleson put together when you guys went over through this whole Team Russia versus Canada / Cold War / propaganda / political agenda?
Of course not. We didn't get paid shit. Nothing. Nada.
All your expenses and all your flight and your food?
We got expensive food. The food over there, forget about it. But anyway, we didn't get paid. It was supposed to be all for the pension, and everybody knows.
So it was all for the pension, and it was all for the flag. Would that, am I jump in if I'm wrong? So it was for the.
Well, let me tell you. At the beginning, no, it wasn't.
It wasn't for the flag, or was it for the pension?
At first, it was for the pension. I went to play as a pension. And
Come on, Phil, you're a true blue Canadian. You must have played for the flag, for your country. You were born and raised in...
Frankie, let me explain.
Okay.
As I understand it, as a guy who knew what was going on generally, was not a part of that team, but went to Russia. Phil, correct me if I'm wrong. This series with the Russians was portrayed as a laugher.
Absolutely.
And then in the first game in Montreal, the laughing stopped.
Absolutely.
And the players on Team Canada said, Jesus Christ, these guys can play.
So let me get this straight, because I'm the moron out of the three of us. So you're saying that the NHL felt, and both of you jump in, they were going to shame the fuck out of the Russians, right? And embarrass them like a team playing against a pickup or a beer league, a pro team playing against a beer league, and they were going to kick the fucking shit out of them, and it was going to be a laugher. Is that what you guys are trying to tell me?
Well, personally, I thought it was going to be like the All-Star games are played now.
Yeah.
You know?
What's that?
Run, right, Billy? That's what we all thought.
Yeah, I don't think, there was no, when I say laugher, it was a game that the NHL could win.
Yeah.
Why, Billy?
And
why?
Comfortable in feeling that
but
way
did anybody do their due diligence? Did anybody go see how the Russians were playing? Did Al Eagleson, who was the protagonist in setting 1972, it was probably one of the most, I was a child, and I remember watching it in our portable on a small black and white TV, and the whole school was mesmerized. Was this propaganda? Because Russia at that time was the arch enemy of the United States of America. So how did Al Eagleson become the protagonist in this propaganda for North America against communism? I'm asking you. No conspiracy theory. I'm not writing a fucking episode for Fox. I'm asking you guys.
Frank, you're too far down the road on this. That was not part of it. It was simply this. I don't think that any of us who are in the hockey business, let alone the players who are the hockey business, knew how good these guys were.